And welcome to the ECA Bay Area Fall 2025 online workshop. If you've just joined, just another reminder that this is an open meeting, so we can see you. It's not just a webinar where you don't. So remember, if you have your camera on, that it's on, and keep your sound muted. If you want to see captions, there's options for that too. And one last reminder. Chat should be used for comments or issues or kind of feedback to maybe something that's said. However, there's going to be a number of ways to provide feedback during today's meeting. And also, if you have questions, use the Q&A tool on your Zoom toolbar. All right, we'll still have people joining. We'll go ahead and proceed. Today's meeting is led by the Earthquake Country Alliance Bay Area Coordinating Committee co-chairs. And I believe Ray is going to be joining us in a moment, if he hasn't already, just looking. But Dina and Jeff, do you want to just give a quick introduction and hello? Dina.
Good morning. My name is Dina Gunning. I'm with the Central County Fire Department and one of the Bay Area co-chairs for the Earthquake Country Alliance. So thank you for being here today and joining us for this very timely and important topic. I don't think we can cover this enough for those of us living in earthquake country. So thank you for being here today. Jeff?
Thank you, Dina. Good morning, everyone. My name is Jeff Arith. I'm an emergency management with San Francisco International Airport, also a CERT coordinator, CERT program manager. And thank you all for joining us. Look forward to this presentation.
So for today's agenda, welcome again, everybody. We're going to discuss your action plan for the 7 steps to earthquake safety. We'll also have some activities and opportunities, as Mark's mentioned, for feedbacks. And then at the end, we will have some time for announcements from you, our participants.
Thank you, Dina and Jeff. One thing hopefully this morning you may have received a confirmation email in that hopefully you might have seen it in time to see that it did include a link to earthquakecountry.org/languages with 2 documents there, which you could use when we go through the 7 steps presentation to take notes for your action plan. One is a 2-page, just a double-sided document, fairly easy to print. And this is ideal for when you're doing, so one day I'm hoping that some of you may lead this presentation. You can send this to people that if you're doing something online or even bring to an in-person event. This document on the left is an 8-page document that we print in a kind of a quad fold way, but you can also print it out. And it has a lot more details than the 2-page document, and also similar spaces that you can take notes. So I would like to know that has anybody, and you can put it in the chat if you've got that message. I'm wondering if anybody printed those out to use. And then, but you can still do that. You don't have to use it to take notes. You can take notes on your computer or other ways, but it just gives a little structure to it, and we'll be referring to that as we go on. Today's workshop is going to have a focus on the 7 steps to earthquake safety. And really the purpose and our goal today is that to both provide a training for many of you who may not have learned about the 7 steps to earthquake safety before. For many of you, we know are longtime experts and very prepared and have done many of the steps that we've done, and many of you may encourage others to do so in your communities, and may have, and we know you will have great feedback to the presentation content, because what we're sharing today is kind of like a version we've used for a while, and we want to update it and with a lot of new kind of way of presenting the information, some new content details, while also keeping it to in a regular presentation you might do to like 45 minutes or less. In a training like we're kind of going through today, could be online or in person, maybe a 2 hour training. So trust me, each of these steps we could talk for an hour on in terms of all the details that could be included. But if you have really good thoughts about something we maybe are missing, or something that needs to, information to be updated, or just any suggestions, we've added questions into our workshop survey. So you can, the link is now in the chat. You can click that and have that open as we proceed. So that's not for you to take notes to yourself because that's coming to us. But we just know many of you will have many thoughts about what we should be doing differently or including, and we want to hear that to use to update the presentation. If you are in Southern California, next week, next Wednesday, we're having an in-person version of this training, and we will take some of the feedback today and put that already into that training. So we're basically doing kind of two options, the two ways that we might lead these trainings in the future. One online today, and then next week in person. So if you're in Southern California, you haven't registered, and if you'd like to join us in the Port of Los Angeles at the Alta-Sea facility, you can go to earthquakecountry.org, look for the events tab, and you can find out the information there. Okay. So I typically like to start the presentation for the 7 steps with a bit of science, and then we'll get into a lot of safety. And some people have moved to California. They're wondering, why are there so many earthquakes? So, of course, we live on an edge of two of the boundary, but two of the largest plates of the Earth's crust. If you think of an eggshell, it's kind of cracked. The crust is about as thin as the eggshell is relative to the size of the Earth. And we're on the border between the Pacific Plate and the North American Plate. And of course, mostly that is the San Andreas Fault, but there are many faults that kind of break off of it that are part of that entire system. And when you add up all the potential earthquakes in the future, of course, the West Coast has very high earthquake hazard. You can see California and the entire West Coast, but also Alaska, the central US, and other parts of the country. And you can find information about this at this link here too, which will also be put in the chat. But because California has high earthquake risk, there's been a lot of research. And over the years, our understanding of what earthquakes are possible has greatly increased. In the 80s, our understanding of the history of earthquakes was fairly limited to the San Andreas faults, but and segments and other major faults. But you can see over time, we've really developed through this statewide California Earthquake Center, USGS, and the California Geological Survey, a great level of detail of what the past earthquake history has been on faults, what the likelihood for future earthquakes is, using a lot of information. So this is called the Uniform California Earthquake Rupture Forecast, and this is continually updated, and this goes into that national USGS map as well. And you can see the areas that are in kind of darkest red are more likely to have big earthquakes and have had big earthquakes, but all over the state there is potential for earthquakes. In the Bay Area, there has been work by the USGS to understand the probability of earthquakes. And this chart from a few years ago, projects a 72% probability of a 6.7, which is a Northridge earthquake size from 1994, or greater earthquake happening kind of in a 30-year period. And but some faults, of course, have, or each of the faults have their own probabilities. And like the San Andreas, 22% chance. The Hayward fault has the highest chance probability of 33%. And you can see the other, and The thing to know about that is that there's been a lot of study about the Hayward fault, and the USGS led a development of a scenario called the Haywired scenario. And there's a lot of information you can find about that scenario and what will happen when that earthquake happens. And we also developed a toolkit that you can use to conduct discussion-based exercise based on many issues that are identified in the scenario report in your organization, in your communities, and we encourage you to look that up too. And again, all these links are being put in the chat. The key thing is that more can and must be done to deal with these hazards than we've been doing. A lot has been happening. A lot of you are very prepared, and that's why you're here. Some of you are interested in being more prepared, and that's why you're here. Whatever reason you're here, we really appreciate you joining us today. And it really is us all coming together. So the Earthquake Country Alliance, this statewide partnership, has statewide committees and regional alliances, and with support from FEMA that comes to the California Office of Emergency Services, supports the statewide California Earthquake Center where I'm based. I should introduce myself. My name is Mark Benthian, and in my role as Director for Public Education and Preparedness at SCEC, I also serve as the Executive Director for Earthquake Country Alliance. And if you haven't joined us, I know many of you got the information because you're on our email list already, but if you got it through another ways, please go to earthquakecountry.org/join, get on our email list so you'll be updated about things that are happening. We do have resources at our website at earthquakecountry.org and in Spanish at terremotos.org. We do support Tsunami Preparedness Week, which in 2026, it's always the last week of the month, so we like to include the weekends too. So March 21st to the 29th, and you can find out more about that in early January. You'll be able to register your activities in 2026, including year-round, but also for Tsunami Preparedness Week. It's very much like Shakeout. You know, many of you participate in Shakeout, which of course just completed in October. Next year, it will be on October 15th. It's always on the third Thursday of October, so the date changes each year. And you can find out about our past events and upcoming other events on our earthquakecountry.org/calendar. All right, so all of our information is organized according to the 7 steps to earthquake safety, which is going to be where we spend most of our time for the remainder of the webinar today. And these are steps what to do, as you can see, before, during, and after earthquakes. Because there's, of course, there's activities to do to improve your safety, to get prepared. There's what to do during and immediately after earthquakes to be safe and to maintain or improve safety. And then there's what you do in the long run, where it may take days to weeks to months or even years to kind of restore our where we live and rebuild perhaps and restore community. And we'll be talking about each of these 7 steps. And of course, we have detailed information on each of these steps at earthquakecountry.org/7steps, and then also equivalent in Spanish at terremotos.org/siete pasos. And with that, I'd like to turn over for an overview of step 1 by Jeff Erth from San Francisco Airport. Jeff.
Thank you, Mark. Thank you so much. You know, as we've in the Bay Area have passed through small earthquakes, especially me, myself, a survivor, I call myself, of Loma Prieta in 1989, I do want to say that going through a severe earthquake can be terrifying. One of the things about these 7 steps is that if nothing else, it kind of gives some confidence of how we can move forward and prepare. I think training and awareness brings confidence. Sometimes we think of earthquakes as very doomsday-ish. So we start with this first thing you do is secure your space. No matter where you live, there are going to be things that in your dwelling, focus on dwelling could also be your office or wherever else you spend most of your time, hazards and things that could fall, either break, that could be valuables, or things that could potentially injure people, and secure movable items. And there's a few simple things we want to talk about here today of things that would be easy to do, something on the weekend, go to the hardware store, take a look at what they have for tools and things. Next slide, we'll go into a little deeper. Furniture, everyone's got furniture. We've got bookcases, file cabinets, some of are high. There are things that are off the shelf things that you can purchase to secure those from falling over. Are they going to prevent everything from breaking? Possibly, possibly not. But if they can be prevented from falling over, it would help in any way, any measure of things. Velcro is very good and can be very, very strong. So just some of these things you can see on the website, there are lots of references to the different types of products, off-the-shelf products. They're sold at every hardware store, Ace, Lowe's, Home Depot, whatever's the closest to where you live. Furniture fastener kits, easy things to look at, and they're easy to install. Next slide, please.
And just one thing, just to make sure
Yes.
that it's Velcro to the item, or that sometimes it's a buckle, but
Yeah.
furniture always gets bolted into the studs of the wall.
Yes, where possible.
Really,
And it's a good point. And inquire at the hardware store on how to find little small cheap tools you can use to find the studs. And sometimes that could be a little bit of a challenge. Um, TVs and electronics, the same thing. Flat screen monitors, very expensive. My wife and I were shopping at Costco the other day for a new one, and they are not cheap. The other thing to consider is here in the Bay Area, the last major earthquake was a 6.0 earthquake in 2016. Unfortunately, we learned that one person died when a flat screen monitor fell on someone's head. Could have been prevented. It's just very, very important to consider what you have and be smart. TV, electronics, you see the picture of the little boy trying to get up on that drawer to get to the television. That type of television is heavy, could fall over. If nothing else, if it's able to prevent injury, at least it's going to be anchored so it won't be damaged as possible. We always recommend if you can get the nice kits to attach to the wall with lag bolts to the frames. Putty, museum putty, earthquake putty. There are 3 or 4 or 5 different products out there. If you have valuables that are on a shelf, they're very easy to fall over. Just a simple amount of putty to the bottom will prevent it from damaging. Quake hold, the gel, the different types of things. Lamps could fall over if on a nightstand, could it fall over to hit you as well. Next slide. And now kitchen cabinets. And here's, I think, where we may not all realize or understand what the hazard is. In the kitchen, you probably got cabinets below where you have maybe like a stove and oven next to it. Those appliances, of course, should be secured to the wall. And childproof locks are a little simple, easy step that can be used to mitigate those things happening. But think about this. If you just go back one more slide, Mark, is many of you, like my kitchen, have up above cabinets. And if you think about what's in those cabinets, they're hard, breakable things, dishes, glasses, things of ceramics. In an earthquake, those things are going to fly right out. So one mitigating thing is, could you consider taking those heavy, valuable, breakable things and putting them down below and putting them above, maybe something that's lighter, plasticware perhaps, just something to consider as well. You can see the picture there of all the things that flew out in a recent earthquake. Next slide. Now, by California code, hot water heaters are required to be secured to the wall with earthquake straps, kits you can buy as well. We strongly encourage that. A lot of homes also have appliances that are powered by natural gas, stove ovens, or dryers. Those are easy to be secured. As you see here, flexible stainless steel gas connectors. Some of these might be best to be installed by a contractor, perhaps a plumber or a professional. Something to consider, but little things you can do to prepare and to ensure that these things will not fall over. Next slide. So in the chat should be a link to a very handy step one guide, secure your space. Again, all the things we showed you here: tall furniture, television monitors, hanging objects, small objects, refrigerators, cabinet doors, storage racks, water heater. If you have a very valuable artwork hanging on a wall in your home, if it's not secured with a kit or something to keep it there, it's going to fall over and it could get damaged, especially if it's something that's valuable as well. So go to earthquakecountry.org/step one. Links is in the chat, and we really encourage you to be prepared. So what are you going to do today? What can you do today? Maybe this week or this weekend. Review earthquakecountry.org/step one. Make a list. Hopefully you have in your mind some things you can do. Write them down, item, location, when, secure everything as soon as possible over time. Show them to your friends and neighbors, to your network, family members as well, what can be done, and maybe you'll be setting the example for others as well. Now let's see, Mark, are we doing a poll here?
Yes, we're about to launch a poll. It'll come up and say it. One other really free suggestion, something you can all do is look around. If there's something heavy that's around you that you've put up high, maybe to get out of the way, store it up there. You can move that to find another location for that so it won't fall on you
Yep.
or others. And
Yep.
that doesn't require any fasteners, but something that if the earthquake happens today, which is a possibility, a large earthquake, you'll have reduced the chance of injury. I'm going to launch a poll, so a window should pop up on your screen. And it's just a couple questions regarding step one, just to kind of see, 'cause again, we know many of you have taken actions, so you can go ahead and respond to those questions. And I see people are beginning to do that. We'll just give it a few moments. Awesome, here they all come in. And I'll share the results as that happens. The poll is indicating a lot of this you might think about what to do at home, but also what to do in the workplace. So we're kind of asking what you've done there too. So I'll just give it we'll be
Another
doing a poll for
suggestion
each
too,
step.
Mark, is when you do purchase these items, what's really nice these days are furniture as well as appliances now come with anchors and straps. So when you do purchase a new item, check to make sure that that has come in the package as well. And you can also request those from a lot of the vendors where you purchase those items.
Dina, that's true. And one thing to check though is, are those for earthquake safety? Sometimes they're really just tip prevention, where
Right.
like you just bump it, not the force of an earthquake. So some of these straps are, those may come with a little screw, but you really want to be making sure that's going to be sufficient. And a lot of the fasteners will even tell you how much weight they'll support and what you'll need to know. So I also want to remind everybody, and I'll go ahead and I'll end the poll and share the results. Everybody should be able to see. Uh, Remind that if you have comments as we go through and suggestions for the content in the 7 steps, which we really will welcome, put that into the survey link that we've shared. So it's a survey about today's workshop, but we have questions there, spaces where you can fill in your suggestions, just so we can really have it well organized to use. And so we can see that a lot of people have secured their tall furniture, even about a little bit more water heater, of course, required. And then what to do at work, computers in bookcases. If you haven't done anything, now's a great time to get started. Okay, and we will go ahead and move along to step 2 and Dina.
Great. Thank you, Mark. Thank you, Jeff. So now you're mitigated. Hopefully you're securing your space. Now you want to plan to be safe. So creating a disaster plan, deciding how you're going to communicate during an emergency with your friends, your family. What local hazards are you subjected to? So you can go to My Hazards at caloes.ca.gov and put in your address or your zip code, and it will give you all of the hazards that you may be susceptible to, whether that's tsunami, wildfire, earthquakes. So that is where you should start when you're trying to identify the local hazards in your area or in your neighborhood. And why do we prepare? Well, as we experienced the day after Thanksgiving, this can happen anytime. We had a small earthquake, right? Epicenter was only about 4 miles deep in Colma was the epicenter. I think it was a 3.2. Happened to be home with the family and definitely felt it since I was so close to the epicenter. I was only probably about 2 miles from the epicenter. And we'll talk about alerts and different things that you can subscribe to so that you get notifications, such as my Shake app. But really, preparing is the key. You want to think about what you will do if first responders aren't available, especially in a large or catastrophic earthquake where first responders may not be available for several days. So making sure you have the supplies, which we'll get into next. I know Ray has that one, but utilities may not work. So what are your alternatives? Keeping your cell phones charged, knowing what to do and where your backup lights are. Disasters don't know the time of day or weather, so they can happen at any time. Roadways could be impassable. You might be limited to transportation availability. So there are a lot of things to consider and why you should be preparing. Grocery stores, pharmacies, banks may all be closed. Making sure that you are getting accurate information from trusted sources. So your local officials, and please pay attention to that. Do you have a hand crank radio or a battery operated radio where you can get that information when the power is out and all of the systems are down? Internet may not be available. So what is your plan for getting that information? Making sure that you think about work, school, family and friends' homes, knowing your area and how to plan and prepare for that. How would you evacuate, assessing your particular situation, especially those with access and functional needs? How would you evacuate? We see the picture here to the right of a stairwell chair and how to evacuate somebody that could potentially be limited mobility or even in a wheelchair. Those are all really important things to think about ahead of time. How will you plan to extinguish small fires? Making sure that you have at least one fire extinguisher for your home, maybe 2 or 3, having them in different locations throughout your home. Always recommend don't keep your fire extinguisher underneath the stove. That's one area where we tend to have fires in the kitchen. Making sure that you have a pan or a sheet pan that you can cover a grease pan fire. They're one of the most typical types of fires in the kitchen. But get training. Our local fire departments offer training. You can get that training through our CERT programs, our community emergency response teams, where we actually teach you the proper types of extinguishers and how to extinguish a fire, and you get to practice it. And that's really great information to have. And you want to be doing this ahead of time, not in the moment, right? Making sure that you know how and where and when to turn off all your types of utilities, whether that's water, gas, or electrical, especially gas. We have see it, hear it, smell it. So there's 3 different ways to tell if you do have a gas leak. We always want to make sure that if you think you have a gas leak or you're unsure, you can give it a quarter turn, make sure that you're testing it. But when the valve is in alignment with the pipe straight up and down, that means the gas is on. And when you cross the pipe, that means it's off. This is something that you should know and have the proper tools to do. We keep our gas wrench right next to our meter, so we don't have to look for it in case of an emergency. We have it right there. So making sure that you do that planning and training ahead of time for everybody in your household. I taught my children from a very young age how to locate those things and know what and when to do. Because, we have kids that are home after school and whatnot. They really need to know what to do during these emergencies as well. But again, we have a lot of free training and organizations and availability to get training. Again, our community emergency response team, we have a program called Map Your Neighborhood, which is an excellent thing to do and know your neighbors and find out what resources you have available to you. Have a block party. Neighbor Fest is a great program to get your neighbors together. Red Cross offers training. So really just get out there, get involved, and learn what to do and what you have available to you within your own community. And it's a great way to learn and introduce yourself and meet your neighbors, especially if you've got folks that maybe just moved here from out of the area. So we talked about how to communicate, making sure that you're subscribing for alerts for your local area. Our National Weather Service is another great resource for us for severe weather. Most often, that's our most probable scenario every year, as we have local storms that cause flooding and power outages and down trees, block roadways, things like that. But making sure that you are subscribed to the alerts for your area. So our Bay Area Urban Area Security Initiative has a website that you can go to called alertthebay.org, and you can look up all the alert systems in the Bay Area region for any county that you may reside in within the Bay Area. You can also go to your Cal OES website as well, where you could find your alerting for any county within the state of California is another resource. So really do your homework, make sure that you're finding these things out, and then having a discussion with your family, friends, and neighbors. What will you do in case something happens? So again, we have another poll for step 2. And thank you again for being here and taking the time. What you do today and what information you get today, please share. Sharing is caring, and I can't think of anything more important during the holidays than making sure that you, your family, your loved ones, your coworkers are taking the steps to make sure that you survive whatever type of emergency it is. So, thank you, Mark.
Thank you, Dina.
Toss it back if Ray is on
Yes,
board.
but
If
before
not,
we
I'll
move
toss
to
it
Ray,
back to
just a reminder that if you have questions, please put those into the Q&A, and we will be answering those perhaps by text, or at the end of the 7 steps presentation, we'll have a Q&A time. And so we see one question there now. We'll be answering that in a little bit. And then also, if you have feedback as we go along, to add that open the survey window, and you can type that in there as we go through. Okay, so just letting more people do the poll, and a few more seconds and then we'll continue. And we are seeing questions in the chat, but if you can find the Q&A and put that there, it just helps us to make sure we don't miss those questions, as we're also putting a lot of links into the chat too. But
And as far as the question about expired fire extinguishers, you may have a local vendor that you could look up that takes those and recycles those. Or as long as they're extinguished, you can put them in the disposable ones. You can put those in the recycle bin. They just have to be fully extinguished. If you have any doubts, you can take a large garbage bag and garbage can and maybe go out in the backyard and fully extinguish it and get some practice in the process. But one thing I'll add with the extinguishers is your typical average size extinguisher only lasts about 30 seconds. You always want to give it a quick test before you go in to try to extinguish a fire. Never want to do anything smaller than maybe a small brush or bush. And fire triples in size every 30 seconds. So if you only have one extinguisher, you truly only have about 20 to 30 seconds. Make sure that you get everybody out and call 911.
That's the importance of having more than one extinguisher if there's more than one fire you're dealing with that.
And
Okay.
never go back in. It's not worth it.
Thank you, Dina. And so you can see the results. Lots of people here have, we're not surprised, have taken CERT and other training programs. Great to see so many people having fire extinguishers. If you don't, that's something you want to add into your plan and to do very soon. Okay, thank you, Dina. We'll go ahead and move on. And up next, Ray Bonilla from Common Spirit Health and with the a council member with the City of Hayward has now joined us. He's another chair for ECA Bay Area. Ray, welcome, and you're up.
Thank you so much, Mark, and good morning, everyone. So we are on step 3, and you can find more about step 3 at earthquakecountry.org, step 3. But step 3 is really about organizing our disaster supplies, thinking about where we're going to put our supplies at work, at home, or in our cars. Just thinking about the places that we are most frequently at and when we might need these supplies. And then thinking about the type of supplies that we might need, and we'll get into that on one of the subsequent slides. And then thinking about the duration that you're going to need to have these supplies stored for. So, are we planning for 2 days or are we planning for 5 days? But one of the first things to think about is where do we need to keep these, where do we need to keep our emergency or our disaster supplies? And here's a couple areas. First is under your bed, because, if there's an earthquake that happens in the middle of the night and there's glass on the floor or there's things on the floor, we want to make sure that we have access to, our shoes and, a flashlight perhaps, or any important things that we need immediate access to. So perhaps a bag under your bed, perhaps a bag that you can grab and go. If you need to leave your house, if you need to leave your work, or you might need to have some disaster supplies at work or in your car. And we'll talk a little bit more about what those items might be. But if we think about kind of, what goes in that under the bed, the bag that we tie to the bed, so when the ground starts moving, the bag doesn't disappear, or we put it under the bed in a pretty secure location. But think about putting some shoes, socks, and a flashlight in a closed bag that's attached to your bed. These would probably be the immediate things that you're going to need in the aftermath of an earthquake. It'll prevent you from stepping on broken glass or having to find your shoes in the darkness when there's no light, from tripping over objects. And then it's going to help you leave the room if you're able to, help yourself and then help others in the household. But first, it's about kind of putting on our own oxygen mask. And I think that's what that under the bed does for us. Next is a go bag or a car kit. These are those things that, now that we've gotten our shoes on and we have our flashlights on, or our flashlights with us, if we need to evacuate for whatever reason, or if we need to shelter in place for a period of time, what are the prescriptions or the medications that we might need? What kind of food might we need that's non-perishable, and how are we going to open that food? So thinking of, can openers or, just the food supply that we need. Water, thinking about how we store water, how much water we're going to need, flashlights, batteries, first aid kits, you see the list. I'm sure, many of you guys have these things now. In fact, the holidays are coming up and many of these things are actually on sale for the holidays. I think probably on Black Friday, you could have caught a sale on a few of these things, or maybe even on Cyber Monday. But nonetheless, this is a pretty, good list of things that you're probably going to want to think about putting in your go bag, so that you're not looking for these things in, after the earthquake or whatever it is that's happened, but you have it and you're ready to go and you're ready to move forward. All right. Next, think about, the supplies that you're going to have at home. So this is kind of like your stay kit. So if the house, if you need to evacuate your house, you grab your go bag and you go. So, if a fire is coming, if an earthquake is coming, you grab the bag and you go. But, or let's say after the earthquake and you dropped cover and held on. So you're going to have some supplies for your home. Think about, what do you need for 2 weeks if we need it to be completely self-sufficient at our homes? So what kind of water, food, and other supplies might we need? When we think about water, think about 1 gallon of water per person per day, including your pets, 1 gallon for them for up to 2 weeks. It might seem like a lot of water to store, but there's a lot of creative ways, like you can see in these photos here on the slide, to store the water, rather that be in these 55-gallon water storage containers, or these smaller storage areas or units. But keep the items in containers or in backpacks where you can quickly take them or move them, and you can access them quickly as well. All right, now your personal disaster supplies. So, lots of opportunities to make sure that you have all of the supplies you need. So here, think about accounting for your dietary needs, your medical, medical information, your medications. Plan for refrigerated medications, because more and more of that is what we have to be able to plan for as well. And then let people know where these things are, so that if you're not able to access them, maybe you can call a neighbor or call a friend, phone a friend, and they can come through and help you, access what you need. So I would say, think through what you need to gather in terms of your supplies. And here are some steps that you can take. Build the bag that goes under your bed. I think that's pretty easy to do. Grab an old pair of shoes, but a good pair of shoes, throw them in the bag, leave them under the bed. Your go bag, think about that. And then think about supplies at home and work, where you might find yourself needing to stay in place for a while. So with that, those are some of the things to think about. And it looks like we have a poll now for step 3. So have you organized supplies at home? And what about in the workplace? And for some of us, that might be the same location.
Thank you, Ray. And I'll point out there are some discussions happening in the chat that really so be looking there. If you have questions, you can put them in the Q&A. And we're just going to let a few more people complete the poll, and we'll move on to step 4. So there's a question, a really important question, about how materials and supplies can be more affordable to people who may have challenges with regular expenses. And Lars Eric has put a resource there. I think one of the key recommendations is just a little bit at a time. It's not something you have to go out and buy everything all at once. And also, you may have a lot of the supplies already. Maybe it's a matter of organizing what you have. You don't need to buy a fancy backpack already full of stuff. In fact, often what you customize and personalize may be more effective than what you might buy off the shelf. And if you do buy something, always make sure to add in the specific things you need.
Great points.
Okay. All right, here's the responses to the poll. And so we know that many of you, again, have done a lot, but then there's always more we can do to be better prepared. Oh, I haven't shared it yet. There's the sharing of the poll answers. So thanks again. We'll go ahead and move on back to Jeff.
Yeah, like normal.
Great. Thank you. Stand by here. Welcome again. Welcome, Ray. Good to see you. And some great advice there for step 3. Step 4 is we are going to minimize financial hardships. What can be done before? Remember, we're still talking before the earthquake. High level, organize important documents, strengthen your property, consider insurance. We all have a lot of important documents. Do we know where they are? Identification documents, financial, medical, contact information. And the point is that in an emergency, it could be any kind of emergency, Where are these? How are you going to access them? There's different levels of things you can do. At a best point is make copies, put them on the thumb drive, or it could be taking a spreadsheet and making a list of all your account numbers, your name of your institutions, what it's for, how to contact them, an address, a phone or email or a website, something that could be a quick reference in case of, let's say your home is red tagged and I got all my stuff in the home. I don't know where all the stuff is. It's in the home. I can't get to it. Even if I could get into it, it's going to take me days to find it. Something quick reference that you can access. Next slide. We'll go into this too in the kit coming up here. Buildings, older buildings infrastructure. California Earthquake Authority has some programs to help. It's a website. It's earthquakebracebolt.com. Strengthen my house. It could be, if nothing more than this, is just to get some visibility or intel on what is the structure or condition of the home you live in. If you live in the home, if you rent, I encourage you to inquire this with your landlords. Is the facility, the building secured? Many cities are requiring retrofits of older vulnerable buildings. We're talking things like soft story type buildings. In the Bay Area, there are quite a few. I know there's a lot still in Southern California. We rely a lot on our transportation networks. Here at SFO, for example, we have masses of elevated guideways for BART, train, freeway access. It may be that after an earthquake, the freeways are closed not because they are damaged or the overpasses, for example, are collapsed, but because they're closed because they have to be inspected. And having to inspect hundreds and hundreds of overpasses and bridges could take a long time. So just consider that something that might be disruptive to you and to all of us. Water, power, and other utilities. We talked about what can we store. Next slide. FEMA has produced a very, very helpful guide, a kit, the Emergency Financial First Aid Kit, or EFAC. We share it here with employees at SFO. It encourages things like keep a small amount of cash. We talked about the go bag, small bills of cash in each of those go bags, one per person, an emergency savings account that you could all develop or have set aside some method of saving money. Consider earthquake insurance for homeowners, renters, and for commercial entities. It may not be possible now, but consider it just to get a quote to see how much it would cost. At the California Earthquake Authority website, there is a estimate toolkit to estimate how much it would cost. You put in some information on there of your zip code where you live, what the age of your home is, and approximately how much it would cost. But I encourage you to get a quote from your insurance broker of how much it would cost for earthquake insurance. Deductible may be high, but I encourage you to look at it because the deductible may be a lot more than having to pay for the cost out of pocket to replace your home. So your action plan, again, documents, something simple and easy you could do this weekend. Just get a list. What can you do to strengthen your property? If you can get insurance, consider these things. It might be a simple call to your homeowners, to your insurance broker. Okay, here's step 4, poll. Encourage you to look at this poll, submit 1, 2, and 3 questions, easy to do. And we'll look forward to see how we result in this. What are our results for this survey?
One comment on the question about if you own your home, has it been retrofitted? And it mentions newer home, not needed. We often get a question of, at what point is the type of retrofitting that is common needed? Typically, buildings, homes that have been built since, like around 1980, were built to a higher building code, of course, than had existed before. But really, building codes kind of really became more modern at that point, and older homes that have crawl spaces, particularly beneath them, have vulnerabilities, and that's one of the programs, the Earthquake Brace and Bolt program for those. If you have a home before 1980, that's where you may want to have someone come look at it to see what might help to improve its earthquake resistance. And we'll just let a few more people complete the poll. Okay, we'll go ahead and end that and share those results so you can see. Um, Great to know that I think we always have more to do because our information is regularly being updated. So that's another aspect of that, is make sure you keep that information updated. It doesn't become out of date in what you have, wherever you have that saved and organized. And, be very careful with that information because, it's a lot of uh, important details and financial information, et cetera. Uh, uh, Having that in a secure way, if you have it on a flash drive or something, have one that maybe you can have a password for, if it's in the cloud. If you have printed copies, just to make sure that you're going to maintain, possession of that. Um, if it's in your go bag, you don't just give that to someone else. And I wouldn't recommend that you um, have that out and about if you're around other people. All right, so go ahead and stop that and move on. Again, if you have questions, we can put it into the Q&A. Not many people doing that, but some good discussion happening in the chat too. And we do, of course, welcome your feedback on and suggestions in the Survey Monkey. We'll put the link again to that if you haven't already begun that process. So we really appreciate that. Okay, step 5. Now we're moving from the before to the during and stage, or kind of earthquakes. And it's both during, is both as the shaking begins and continues, and then also immediately after the during of the earthquake, kind of more danger period. But what to do during an earthquake, as has been really the official recommendation for decades, is to what we call drop, cover, and hold on. And you'll see lock here, and that refers to what to do for people who use a wheelchair, to lock their wheels first and then to cover and hold on. And this really is a strong consensus. Even our urban search and rescue firefighters, even those who've traveled around the world, say that, if people are able to get themselves into a protective space, under something, to protect from things that are falling, which is the majority of injuries are caused by falling or even flying objects, far more than from building collapse. You could have, like in a large earthquake, like the Northridge earthquake or Loma Prieta, while you'll have some buildings that have significant damage, you'll have thousands of buildings that don't, but tens of thousands or more of rooms with stuff in it that are falling and flying during an earthquake, and you can secure those to prevent those injuries. And it even increases the chance of surviving a building collapse. And our guidance here is, want to make sure you understand it. You want to adapt to your situation. If you can't get back up again, don't get down in the first place. Bend over and cover your head like a sit, or if you're in bed, you'll stay in bed, put a pillow over your head. But if you're someone who uses, we'll go kind of through some of these details in a little bit more here. Just really make sure that people that around you know what your plan is going to be and that you practice it often. So drop doesn't mean drop under a table. It means drop to the ground where you are, onto your hands and knees, that prevent you from being knocked over or being thrown down. And this may sound kind of a little bit like, well, I've been in a lot of earthquakes. I haven't had to really do anything. In recent years, we haven't had large, significantly strong, intense shaking that will knock you down. And that is possible in a large earthquake near to you. So you want to prevent injuries from that alone by getting down low. You want to be right away, cover your head and neck as best you can, because things might start to be falling. If there's a sturdy table or desk nearby, crawl underneath that for additional shelter. And if there isn't, you can crawl against a wall or next to something that is going to provide protection from things coming at you from at least one direction. Uh, Maybe not from above, but from, it's just going to protect you, provide some shelter. And then if you're under something, you're going to hold on to it or just hold on. You want to stabilize yourself. You want to know if your shelter starts to move. You don't want to be kind of underneath it and now it's moved. So hold on to it. And that's kind of indicated here in the figure of one arm holding on, the other still kind of maybe blocking things from coming at you from the side. So we do have a series of videos that you can find at youtube.com/greatshakeout showing what to do in different situations. These two are what to do if there is a table or if there's not. These are little snippets, clips of those videos. They're each about a minute long. If you're using a cane, the key thing is maybe you're able to get down and up with that cane, but keep it with you so that you have it nearby to assist you. Again, if you can't get down onto your knees or something, find a seat to stay in and make sure that cane doesn't get thrown away from where you are. And if you're using a wheelchair, you're going to first lock your wheels, cover. You can put something over your head. Maybe it's a pillow, maybe it's a book, maybe in this case a laptop. You want things to hit that rather than you. Again, adapt to your own situation and capabilities. And that's similar if you're using a walker that has wheels and a brake, the rollator type. You can set the lock on that. She's sitting in a chair. She's covering her head and neck as best as she can. And that may not be, all the way up and over. If you can't, do what you can do. Adapt to your situation. And again, if you're in bed, you can roll over, put a pillow over your head. First, you want to make sure nothing's going to be falling on you where you're in bed. The full video shows that she pulls her underbed bag out and pulls the shoes out to be putting those on before even stepping on the floor. Okay, so you want to practice and you want to protect yourself, of course, when you feel earthquake shaking, when you get an earthquake early warning, and of course, when you do an earthquake drill. Oh, that slide needs to be updated. Again, for 2026, it's going to be on October 15th. Earthquake early warning, of course, is hope many of you have this or have received alerts. There's a few ways to receive the alert. This works by having many sensors across the whole western U.S. for the U.S. Geological Survey and partners at Caltech and Berkeley and others that with support in California from Cal OES to develop this system where you have sensors that can detect earthquakes near the faults where the rupture is beginning, determining that it's an earthquake, determining the potential magnitude and the area that is going to be strongly shaken, all within a few seconds. Super amazing that this has been able to be developed to really send out a fairly good estimate of what's going to happen to people who are needing to take a protective action, all within a few seconds. And there's a few ways that you can get that warning. For larger earthquakes, magnitude 5 or greater, you may get a wireless emergency alert similar to a Amber Alert or a weather alert. You'll hear that tone, that something surprising, jarring tone we get at times, but you'll have to look at your phone to read what the alert is about. And that may save or take a few seconds. You may have to go get your phone to know what that was for. So if you want to have a faster notice and maybe not even have to look at your phone, you can download the MyShake app from your app store. This will give you a notice for magnitude 4.5 or greater earthquakes, and also has an audio recording that will tell you, you'll hear a tone, and then also it will say something like earthquake, strong shaking expected, drop, cover, and hold on. So even if you're not right next to your phone, you'll know what that's about. And you definitely want to take action immediately when you get these alerts. Don't start asking other people, hey, did you get this too? And this is for real. It may not be a very large earthquake that they have to, where you are, the shaking will be so intense that things will be falling. But even if not, it's a great opportunity to practice what you would do if it was much larger. So drop, cover, hold on when you get this message. And also some phones are now starting to have kind of a more built-in alert system to where you don't even need an app. And earthquake.ca.gov has information on all of these as well. Of course, you're going to practice earthquake safety during shakeout. We had 10.5 million people in California participate this year, almost 20 million people across the country, and many more worldwide. And next year, we hope you'll join us again for Shakeout, and a really great time to practice. So, in addition to when you feel shaking, when you get an alert, of course, you can do have a drill, and you can have multiple drills in multiple places. So, in the workplace, these women here in this picture, they have made their own shirts that say "Shaken Not Stirred" with like a martini glass. This is a church practicing. You can see the drop curve hold on graphic up on the screen there. Of course, in preschools, CERT teams, families, hospital situations, everybody can shake out, or of course, practice earthquake safety. We have a lot of guidance materials that on the website, of course, that you can use year-round to talk about earthquake safety in different situations, our accessibility guidance, materials for parents and childcare providers and many others and businesses, the videos, as well as presentations you can use to lead an earthquake drill are all available there. So again, we're now to a point for another poll, and think about what you're going to do to practice earthquake safety, and where and with who, and you should be able to see the poll now. It's a great question, Jack, in the chat. Can you provide a document or email everybody on the call with the above web links? Yes, we can put that together. And Lindsay, can you make a note that we'll take the chat and we'll make sure all the links we can add to the web page of what of a document that will be there. So again, the presentation PDF, which has the links, a link collection, and the video will be all on the website where you're registered at earthquakeCountry.org/BAFA25. It stands for Bay Area Fall 25. Okay, almost done with the poll question. And, we often do drills in large groups. It kind of makes a lot of sense. We're at work, we're in a community group. But yeah, at home, where it's just our people in our household or family, not so regularly. And so, as you'll see here, that's not many people have done that, or they realize they need to do it more frequently. And you can do, excuse me, you can do earthquake drills with children as young as 2. They do it in preschools. You can learn how to do that. Often it's not talking and explaining what earthquakes are, but it's using something, an analogy, a story, something like a bear cub in a cave, or a bunny in a hole, where you say, where pretend you're a bear cub and you're gonna, you need to run into the cave from the, someone's coming to get you, and they're shaking, or something. There's stories you can look up for how to do that. And parents, you don't want to run to your children during the earthquake shaking. It's super difficult to not want to do that, but you can cut up your feet, you can trip, you can twist your ankle, and then your kids have to help you. So let me go ahead and share the results, and we will move on. Yes, thanks for noting that. To find the Q&A, it's in the more section. You may to activate that. Okay. A lot of you have the MyShake app, and others will do it now. And some of you, yeah, you really can take your phone out and go to your app store and search for MyShake. It is from UC Berkeley, so you'll know that you're downloading the right thing. It's kind of a green colored graphic there. Okay, we're going to move on to step 6 and back to Dina.
Great. Thanks, Mark. Okay, now that we've all been reminded on what we're going to do during the earthquake, still talking about during and improving our safety, evacuating if necessary, helping injured, or preventing further injuries or damage. Next slide. So, evacuating if needed, if there is building damage, a fire, or other hazard. Hopefully you all have decided on an assembly point that is outside your workplace or outside your home. Making sure that everybody is getting out safely and if needed, calling 911, especially in case of a fire, but not going back into the building, as I mentioned before, especially during a fire. But sometimes that is the safest place is staying in and sheltering in place as well. So that's something that you need to think about ahead of time and decide on where those meeting places would be. For us, it's the corner across the street and it's the right corner because across the street on the left corner is where our fire hydrant is. So teaching your kids where not to go and making sure they know the appropriate place or where your meeting place is to go is really important as well. If you feel shaking and you're near the coast, getting to higher ground, so knowing where the place is, looking at the inundation maps ahead of time so that you know how far inland or up to higher ground do you need to go is really important for those of us that either work, live, or play on the coast. Remembering your go bag. Again, Ray gave us some great tips and information on your go bag. And always remember, it's what you can't go without for maybe a day, 2 days, 3 days. Those are the important things that you want to think about, as Ray mentioned, your medications, extra glasses, things like that. Helping the injured, this is where getting your first aid training, taking a Stop the Bleed class is one of the most important classes that you can take alongside of CPR and first aid. But remembering our CERT rules and making sure to ask somebody before helping them. If it's okay to help them and tell them who you are, make sure that you're informing them that you can help them and that you are trained to help them. Making sure to get people who are injured out of harm's way in case of aftershocks. And then again, if you can, calling 911 to request medical help. Sometimes if it's a severe enough emergency, you might find yourself that you are the help until help arrives. So making sure that you're taking care of folks until you can either get them to medical help or medical help can get to you. Again, preparing for aftershocks, securing items, making sure that you have that fire extinguisher training for five small fires only. Remember, we talked about that. You only have about 20 to 30 seconds. Again, reminder about the utilities, especially if you have a gas leak. And then using flashlights instead of candles or matches, especially if you detect you may have a gas leak and the power is out. You want to not make things worse and create a fire situation. So make sure you have those glow sticks in your go bags or a flashlight. Store the batteries separately as well so that you're not having an issue and it doesn't work when you go to need it. Just keep those batteries in a baggie or something else so that you're keeping that separated. Next one, Martin.
Time for the poll.
Time for the poll. So do you know where your utilities are and how to turn off the gas? And do you have that proper tool? And are you in a tsunami zone? And do you know where the clear space is and where you would assemble if in case you needed to evacuate from the coastline? You know, a lot of us go to the beach. I have this beautiful picture behind me. I spend a lot of time at the beach. So remember, if you feel that shaking and you think it's a significant earthquake, you want to get to that higher ground.
Okay, there's a few more people participating, and okay, end that poll and share the results.
And remember, this is a lot of information that we're giving you today. So sometimes it can be overwhelming if this is the first time you're hearing this information, but that's what all of the links to all the steps are for. So take it one step at a time, right? And that's exactly the point of all of this training and information. You can't just do it overnight. It takes time. And you really want to make sure that you're taking the time, but do those life safety and important steps first and just take it one step at a time. And tossing it back to you, Ray.
Thank you so much, Gina, and what great reminders. As we think about bouncing back and reconnecting and restoring once the earthquake or the event is has passed. Think about, what does it take to reconnect and how do we rebound? And, when I think about step 7, I sort of think about, our resilience and how we connect with each other and we support each other and we're stronger when we face issues as a united front. And, I think that when we recover from disasters, how we reconnect and how we restore and how we work together to rebuild our communities and to repair damages and most importantly to reconnect with each other so that we can restore our daily lives and our daily livelihoods is really important as we think about how we continue to prepare for um, earthquakes or tsunamis. So moving on to the next slide here. When we think about reconnecting the first few weeks after an earthquake, just think about who you might need to connect with and what you might need to do to get things restored. If your gas was turned off, how might you get your gas turned back on again? Contacting your gas company. For FEMA, you might look at what sort of assistance they might provide in the weeks after. If you need repairs, check with, make sure contractors are licensed. And I would say make sure that you know the resources that are within your community. And make sure that you know how to plug into community-based resources because I think, communities will come together, cities will activate, your blocks will activate their response teams, and really just knowing how to connect in with that and how to work, within those systems so that you could rebound quickly is really important. The recovery phase is really critical for how it is we restore normality or, create a new normal for how it is we move forward. If you can't stay in your home, shelters may be overcrowded. So consider who you might stay with in terms of friends, families. Hotels may or may not be an option, but think about that. Once, if your home needs to be rebuilt and you need to be out of it for a little bit of time so repairs could happen, or electricity is out and the power provider needs to take a few weeks to get your electricity restored. Think about where you might stay if you can't stay in your home. And always think about your out of area contact for a location. Tell your neighbor. Only take your go bag and essential items with you to a shelter. Don't pack, like you're going on vacation and you have all your luggage with you. Take what you need, as Dina had said. Just think about the bare minimum that you need to get through the next couple of days until things or weeks until things are rebuilt. And then always think about your pets. Have a plan for them in the event that they can't stay with you. Some shelters may or may not accept pets, but just kind of think ahead, on if you weren't able to go back home for whatever reason, where would your pets go? And where would you go?
Hey Ray, can I make a quick comment?
Yes, please.
You mentioned FEMA. FEMA assistance is really important that everyone, homeowners or renters, keep good records after an earthquake of damage, what their loss is. If you have to go out and purchase equipment, supplies, keep a good record, keep receipts of everything. In the event of a federal declaration and the possibility of funding for individual assistance, those records would be vital for that.
That is a great point, Jeff. Thank you so much for underscoring that.
Yeah, and one more thing, Ray, we actually now are required to either cohabitat or co-locate your pets at shelters. So
excellent.
Fido, Kitty, your goldfish, Yes, but make sure you have those supplies for them. That's the key to that, right? But yes, jurisdictions are now required. That was an assembly bill passed last July, a year ago, July. So those are all part of our planning processes on our sides that we help. Again, like you mentioned, the community and restoring and trying to get back to what will be our new normal, because we know normal is never normal.
That's right.
So I see in the poll here that many people are planning to stay with family, and that's an interesting thought related to pets too. Make sure if that's your plan. Does your family know who you're bringing in terms of pets? Or is anybody allergic? Do you have the medication to provide them to help them with that? There's all these things to consider about where you might be, and really, I think is if you're well prepared and your house is you know, made it through the earthquake where you can stay there, even if the power's out, or, if you have all the resources that you might have to stay there, it may be your best option. You'll be able to stay sleeping in your same bed, and have access to all that you need. Okay, I'm going to end the poll and share those results. So,
my favorite one is camping in the backyard, I have to say.
Well, at least you're not going to be alone. It looks like there's a
If
few
you have
people
that
who
capability.
Yeah, that's right. So if the house has some damage, you don't want to be inside it, or if you're concerned about aftershocks, that can be an option too. So just be prepared for that. And
Or
of
maybe
course,
you can go camping in your living room.
it's really,
Depending on the situation, you may not even have to go outside.
Don't forget your alternative potty issues. That's also another good one. And we teach that during CERT training. So having the alternatives, because if we don't have water or sewer, that might take some time for restoration as well.
Lars Eric, thank you for the note about the resource, You Are the Help Until Help Arrives. No, I think we may link to that from the pages somewhere. So we'll make sure to check on that and get that updated. All right, so we have made it through the 7 steps, and I want to just remind you or inform you that we do have all of this information and much more in 16 languages, and in some of the documents, including the worksheet, in 18 languages. And we're working to complete all the other documents. These are the top languages spoken in California, according to statistics. So they're not every language, the top languages worldwide, but many of the most common languages. Of course, English and Spanish, but Chinese and Korean and Japanese and many, many other languages. What to do to be safe, what to do for the planning, the 7 steps, and you can reach out to us if you'd like a supply of printed copies. You can email info@earthquakecountry.org, and we'll send you a way to order those. And really just to emphasize that this, if you've done a lot of this already, if you haven't, either way, there's probably some actions that you could take today. Some simple actions, like moving that heavy object to a lower location so that if the earthquake happens later today, it won't fall on you. Like going, wherever you're going out, to get some more water when you do, to store and to have. And you can do things over time, but especially the steps 1 through 4, what you're going to do before, that prepare you to survive and then recover more quickly. That's really what it's all about. And very much important that it is something we all do together. Your neighbor's preparedness or lack of preparedness may affect you. One thing I often tell people with regards to fire extinguishers is, if you can't put out the small fire in your home that then leads to your home becoming on fire, it could then spread to your neighbor's house, and the neighbor's house, and the fire department, being so busy, may not be able to come and deal with that, and now your neighborhood is on fire. That can happen. That has happened in earthquakes. But also think about your neighbor having a fire extinguisher, or asking, do they, or maybe giving them one. because you want them to put out their small fire before their home becomes on fire and catches your home on fire and so on. So it really is something we are all going to do together. And there's, of course, community preparedness groups like CERT and other programs that are really important that we can all a part of. And again, a lot of resources for this information on our website, earthquakecountry.org, in various places there, in the 7 steps, and the languages, multiple languages page, and the resources page. You can connect with ECA and the Bay Area Earthquake chapter, Bay Area earthquakecountry.org, with us on social media. And any general questions at any time, info@earthquakecountry.org. Hopefully you've already started the survey, because we've shared that earlier on for you to provide feedback for each of the 7 steps. But there are other questions there too. You don't have to provide feedback. It's not when you get to that page of, you can just skip that if you don't have any feedback and get to this providing us feedback for how today's workshop is going for you. And so there's a link in the chat coming up again soon here, as well as you can use the QR code here. With that, we're going to move into this. We're going to have some Q&A. So we do have some questions. I'll point out one that was in the Q&A that's been answered by text. If you rent or are not allowed to secure items to the walls, the landlord doesn't or prevents you putting holes in the walls, is that legal? Unfortunately, there's no real rule that prevents that. It may not be something that will, if someone gets seriously injured, they certainly might be able to sue their landlord about that, but there's no requirement that work be allowed. And we're looking to try to make a difference in that, at least and inform and educate landlords about how that can be can help them keep their tenants if they don't get injured by simple things, and helping them. Maybe I even think they should provide the straps, especially if it's the potential like a furnished space, that they should make sure that space is secured. Also, so a question from Kim: what evacuation recommendation do you have for disabled adults or those living independently in low-income housing? So, this is always about, really, it can be very many different situations about what their evacuation needs are going to be. And it really is about having a personal support team. Maybe there's not people who were there all the time, but are know that they need to go check on people. Could be your neighbors and others that are, or a caregiver that people know the appropriate way that's discussed in advance, and that you have those networks ready to support you or to support those people. So it's all about what you do beforehand. And Sage asked, do you recommend extra caution around electrical outlets and cords? This will come up in our office when we do earthquake drills. Under the desk, there's a lot of extension cords. Yes, it's situational awareness, making sure that you're not going to be putting yourself in danger in general. Yes, when you actually practice a drop, cover, hold on, you discover the things that you might need to deal with, such as having a lot of extension cords. And other aspect of electrical outlets and cords is, making sure that they're not overloaded, too many plugs in one outlet, which can be a fire hazard in general, but also during earthquakes. And if you notice any electrical items that have maybe been where their cord has been torn, as they fall and they break and somehow and so you want to make sure to turn off the power to that outlet if you can, or to unplug it, so that there's no potential for sparks and further hazards. Lars,
Especially
you
around the
asked me.
holidays, Mark,
Yeah.
overloading outlets, because we tend to want to decorate and we start plugging
Right.
in and we put an extension cord to an extension cord, and we don't want to do that. So really being aware of what your outlets can handle and not overloading them. and making sure that you're not creating a fire hazard, especially with trees, and making sure that you're keeping them watered around the holidays, or other decorations of candles and different things. So making sure that they're not, near drapes, and, potentially could fall over and create a fire hazard in that way too. So pay attention to your decorating around the holidays.
Thank you, Dina. Lars Eric, you've asked when I do the workshop survey, is it possible to have a copy of the slides to look at when reviewing? Certainly. As we mentioned, we will be putting the slides and the recording on the website where you registered at earthquakecountry.org/BAFA25, Bay Area Fall 25. And so you'll be able to download those, and the survey will remain up, so you can do that at the you. So you may want to hold off on submitting the survey until you have done so, though I believe you'll be able to submit another response as well. If you have any issues with any of that, just email your comments to info@earthquakecountry.org. And then a great question, Lars Eric. Part of what we're doing today is also hoping that some of you may want to present the newer version that come out of this presentation. So we will be making that available. We are hoping that means you might be someone who we could ask at times to lead a presentation. We have a page I'll show in a moment, a forum where people can request presentations, but we also want to make this available for you to do kind of on your own as well. And so I'll show that in a second here. And then another question or point from Lars Eric in the Q&A. What about when people are traveling to other countries or even from other countries where the kind of the actions that people do during earthquakes are different because maybe they have different building types, standards, much older buildings, and or different situations. For example, in Mexico City, the common large earthquakes that can happen, or the more likely large earthquakes that actually happen hundreds of miles away along the coast. But the shaking, the way that it comes through and is amplified by the Mexico City is built on a former lake bed, and it can amplify that shaking, as happened back in 1985, and even in recent years. It can cause strong shaking and damage. So that gives them, they've had an earthquake early warning system for many years that they'll have more than a minute before the waves will arrive. So they've developed an evacuation program for actually getting out of the buildings because they have that amount of time. We don't recommend that here. The likelihood of getting a warning for strong shaking in your area of more than 30 seconds in California is fairly low. We have many faults right near where we're at, so it could be within a few seconds. It could even be that you're so close that the warning won't get to you in time. The system won't be able to detect it and distribute it in time. But you will get that information about, what size it was, where it was, and also you also don't want to get notifications for earthquakes that aren't going to be providing shaking or sending shaking to where you're at. So you won't always get every alert by design. Okay, so I'm just going to look over at the chat. Thanks for the discussions that are happening there too.
Yeah, Mark, I think there was one quick question about the potty issues, and that is directly related if we lose water service or sewer service in particular, and you're unable to use the toilet. There's some options there, putting bags in the toilet itself, and separating. If you have kitty litter or sawdust, even for those of us that don't have cats, I recommend getting a small container of kitty litter just to have on hand as an emergencies. They sell 5-gallon buckets with toilet seats on them. And there's several camping options that you can also take a look at. But that's always something to be considered. We had over 2,000 water main and sewer breaks during the Napa earthquake, just as an FYI for a statistic for everybody. And the aftershocks, even after we had some of them fixed, the aftershock created new breaks and re-broke some of the old. So that's something that is very likely to deal with. And our public works department, as amazing as they are, can't quite keep up with that. So something else just to be prepared for.
Thank you, Dina. Daniela, you've asked in the chat, the Q&A, what resources for access and functional needs, including individuals' developmental disabilities. I've just put in the chat a link to a page we do have at earthquakecountry.org/accessibility with links to various resources that we have, largely for mobility disabilities, what to do during an earthquake. And though there's some links to some Cal OES resources that broaden that out, we are wanting to expand the range of information and guidance beyond that core of self-protection actions. And a lot of that is not only maybe for the individuals, but also for their caregivers and the considerations to discuss. Okay, and just.
And for folks with access and functional needs, sometimes a bedside commode is a good option.
All right, well, thank you very much for your participation in this part of the workshop. We're going to move on and share a little bit about some activities and very briefly, and then also start thinking about if you all have activities that you're part of or organizing that you'd like to share with others on the call today. That will be following this brief overview of what we're doing. And we definitely want to hear from you. Again, you can put that in the Q&A or even the chat, but we can also call on you. So you can use, I believe you should have the ability to use the raise your hand. Let me know if that's not, but let's just be thinking about what you might like to share. So again, Earthquake Country Alliance, there are various opportunities that you can be involved on the statewide level through subject matter expert committees, helping to develop these materials for different organizations and audiences. Through the regional alliances, there are leadership positions open to be a part of the Bay Area Coordinating Committee, or if you're from another part of the state, those parts of the state. And again, if you aren't already on our email list, if you heard about today's meeting from another source, do join us for free at earthquakecountry.org/join. I want to point out that my home organization, the statewide California Earthquake Center, is an organization of like almost 1,000 scientists at many institutions, research institutions across California and around the country, and even some internationally, who are studying the natural laboratory of California, all the different types of faulting and earthquake hazards that we have, really being able to understand what's possible, what's the probability of earthquakes and how they will shake, working with engineers to develop how to make buildings more resistant and our infrastructure, sharing that with the public through the public education programs we have, which large part is through what we do through the Earthquake Country Alliance. We also have education and workforce programs to develop the next generation of earthquake scientists. Earthquake Country Alliance was shared during the presentation. That's kind of, I'm saying it again because the presentation includes these. This is kind of, I just wanted to emphasize this again. If you joined late, we did have many people who came, that you can find a lot of resources on the website, as well as what to do for tsunamis and participate in Tsunami Preparedness Week. which is coming up at the end of March, but you can, of course, do things year round. Similarly, as California Shakeout, while Shakeout happens on the third Thursday of October, what we call International Shakeout Day, you can, of course, have your earthquake drills any day of the year. And if you haven't had an earthquake drill this year, you can, of course, still do so. And maybe you did it at work, but not at home. And you can also register and be included in the overall count this year, about 10.5 million Californians. I do want to encourage you, if you're interested in being someone who can deliver this presentation or other presentations to those who request them, we would love to have you join us and be a part of our events bureau. This is also a group that can help staff booths and tables at events. And if you would like to have a presentation, have this presentation either online or in person, or have a Earthquake Country Alliance information table at your event, we do have a form you can fill out at earthquakecountry.org/ECA-events, where you can learn how to do that. And you can provide the description of all that is all the details about what you're looking for so that we can find the appropriate people to come to your event. I'm just going to make sure that that is still the correct link. Yep, it is. All right. Also, if you're kind of with a local or state government agency, we do have a communications bureau that meets every month or so to coordinate messaging through the media and among the various agencies. So if you'd like to be a part of that, please also reach out. You can email info@earthquakecountry.org. Reminder about the information we have in many languages. And we're actually going through a review of these materials. So if you're planning to print a lot of these soon, reach out because we may be updating them. We've had another round of review of the language translation. And so that there'll be some updates added to this page soon. And then finally, I want to highlight our Media Awards program. If some of you have received this before, or if you're new to ECA, you might want to apply, or any of you can apply. The next opportunity is going to be in the spring, and we are focused right now on mitigation, so on earthquake fasteners, the step one step. And you're able to, we have a new way of, you can order exactly what you need, up to $500 in some cases more. But there's a very simple application and the best way to know about this is to get on the email list, so be joining ECA. Here's some examples from 2024 of the Northern California Mini Award recipients and what they received. So many different types of organizations. It's all for nonprofits, community groups, faith-based organizations, etc., and who want to secure their space, and we can provide those that materials, again, up to $500. And we're now to the point where we would invite announcements from all of you. If anybody has something they would like to share, you can either say it in the chat, or if you're able to raise your hand, let me see if I can allow that. Nope. Anybody have something to announce? And do you see how you can raise your hand so we can call on you? Trying to see the settings of this. You can also, at this point, if that's not working, since we're not getting a lot of people saying in the chat, if you'd like to come off mute and also turn your camera on, that's an option too. There's someone to share that if you look in the reactions menu on your menu bar, the ability to raise your hand. No one has anything they'd like to share? Dina, do you have any trainings or anything that you know of coming up?
Well, we're getting ready. We have a full calendar for 2026, and now we offer 4 of our community emergency response team training sessions a year. We do 2 in English. Our English are the winter session and the fall session. And then we do a spring Mandarin Chinese. And now we have a teen CERT boot camp that we do in July as well. So we have a full calendar. We offer Stop the Bleed courses, and we're happy to say that our fall class now, our light search and rescue class, will always fall on the shakeout day. So we have now correlated that with shakeout. So we have a full day. So yeah, we've got a lot going on with Central County Fire Department. As always, I'll put my email in the chat here. Please, you guys can feel free to reach out. And we do Stop the Bleed courses now annually. And pretty soon we'll be doing and adding our CPR and first aid classes back. That's probably about it for now.
Thank you, Dina. Chris, if you could unmute and turn on your camera, then you could, I'll add you too. Go ahead, Chris from Cal OES.
Hi, all. Yeah, Chris White, earthquake specialist, Cal OES. I don't see my camera. Can you all hear and see me?
Don't see you, but we hear you.
Uh,
There you are.
Not sure if that helped. Okay, all right, great. Well, but yeah, as always, we rely heavily on ECA and the committees to spread our earthquake preparedness message. I am the earthquake specialist with Cal OES, the Office of Emergency Services. And we've been doing great work with the mini awards as well as Shakeout with Mark and ECA. But I just want to briefly highlight that unbelievably, the FY26 NEHRP proposals will be going out. The bid will be going out soon. That will happen in the near future, in the next couple of weeks, for the National Earthquake Hazards Reduction Program funded through FEMA, which basically aims to expand and build upon successful partnerships and explore innovative kind of programs to support earthquake hazards reduction programming and the implementation of earthquake safety, mitigation, and resilience activities throughout the state. So we will send that out to the ECA network and our other partners, but just wanted to kind of flag it for people that may have some interesting proposals around those types of activities. So thank you.
Thank you, Chris. Thanks to Cal OES, California Office of Emergency Services, for the longtime support of ECA and partnership year-round. Any other announcements, recommendations? There's a lot going on still in the chat. And also, we've also asked, what's some actions you're going to take based on attending today's webinar? That's people are starting to put that in the chat. I'll go ahead and show this next slide. And really, this is what you can put in the chat. If you we would love to have you just come on and share something that you've learned or will do or will use or will tell others as well. If you want to raise your hand, or as Chris did, we can call on you. But if you aren't looking at the chat, lots of great things that people are going to be doing based on today's presentation.
This is Chris again. I'm going to show my 8-year-old how to turn off the gas. So.
Oh, really great point, right? Excellent. Anyone else? What's something that you're going to do? Daniela.
Hello, my name's Daniela. I'm from Contra Costa, and I I also messaged my team that you have some great resources, and we're actually going to tap into our Medical Reserve Corps as well as our health ambassadors, because I think this is something with your resources that we can help promote within our communities in conjunction with other events and activities. So thank you.
Great. And I will say today, this presentation has been, in a kind of a training mode with the feedback form and the polls and also kind of like to show what we can do. It is possible to do this presentation in 30 to 40 minutes as well, just running through it more quickly without pausing and doing polls and discussion and such. So there's a range of presentations, and also even to do a 10 or 15 minute highlights version of what's available. So all of these are opportunities that either we can provide a presenter for your groups or in person or online, or also that you might be able to lead working together with us. And we get a lot of requests for presentations, and we'd love to have you work with us as an ECA Events Bureau member. Jeff.
Mark? Yes, I really appreciate Danielle's comment. We have done this presentation before to the San Mateo County Healthcare Coalition. I believe each county has a healthcare coalition, or for Medical Reserve Corps teams. This is a great presentation, great audience for this. We can do this, as Mark mentioned, virtually, or we'll come to you. We'll make every attempt to come to you if you do schedule this. For medical, it's a great opportunity. I believe, Mark, you might have more info on this, but there is, I think, for medical facilities, some type of exercise or tabletop or workshop requirement for some type of certification that they do that this can fulfill.
Yeah, the Centers for Medicaid and Medicare have a drill requirement for types of drills that must be done each year by certain types of healthcare organizations. And we link to that through Shakeout. I'm going to put the link to that information and more for healthcare organizations into the chat.
And Mark, there's a couple other questions here in the chat. One of them, alternative water storage. You can go online and research out their water pouches that you can buy by the case, which is a great storage alternative, especially if you're in a condo or a small apartment. Those are great options. And then I see too about asking about fire blankets. Fire blankets are mainly designed for the firefighters industry and battling rural fires. And it's not something that's recommended for your regular citizen household type fire. So we don't recommend fire blankets as a way to survive a fire. The best way is to get out and stay out, call 911. But knowing that if you are in a rural setting, now there are different evacuation measures and sites. So you would just have to check with your local fire department and your local jurisdiction to see if that's something that is being discussed or put in place.
Dina, why is that a distinction for rural communities versus others?
It's based on if you really don't have another option. So if you were, say, trapped in your vehicle in a severe rural area and you're trying to evacuate and you've got no other place to go and you're in the midst of a firestorm, unfortunately, we've had a lot of disasters with wildfires that this has been an issue.
You're referring to something that you'll cover you to protect you from as the fire comes towards you.
Right.
I think what they're looking at more like the type where you use it to smother the fire. That
Yes, I want to be clear about that distinction. that's something that, again, check with your local fire department, because we'd want to be sure about what exactly it is that you're talking about.
It's really great to see some of the comments that you're sharing here about organizations and communities and how to get them aware of materials that we have or participating with us. And how to do that is you can email us a recommendation, info@earthquakecountry.org. You can email them and reach out to them and say, hey, I was on this meeting, this workshop, and there's some really great materials there. We're kind of seeing that too. So we're all in this together, and really appreciate your connecting such groups together. And please do so. Okay, we're again, I'm kind of how to connect with us. And if you haven't yet gone to the link for the survey, we'll put that in again. Please do complete that. It may take you 3 minutes. If you want to type a bit more, make it a little bit longer, but we really appreciate your feedback. And also on that survey is where you can tell us if you'd like to become involved in some way with Earthquake Country Alliance, either in the region or in a statewide committee. We have committees for schools and higher education and healthcare and business and nonprofits and faith-based organizations. We have an accessibility committee for people with access and functional needs. So lots of opportunities there. And especially also, there's a question there if you'd like to become involved with the ECA Events Bureau, or just be able to be someone who, we know is leading this presentation, so we can make sure you're kept updated with the latest version. All of that you can indicate there, provide your contact information, or just email us again at info@earthquakecountry.org. I want to turn it over to our chairs for any final comments. Dina.
Yeah, again, just thank you all for being here. It's so important. What we're teaching is life safety, right? So please share the information. Whether you think somebody may have it already or think that they know and have supplies and things like that, this is something that you should do even quarterly. Have a discussion with your family, friends. Do your inventory annually and make sure that you check your insurance coverage. Plans change. You may have moved. There's lots of things. Our lives are very busy and things change. So you want to revisit your plan on a regular basis. So
Great point.
At least twice a year. Do it when you're changing your batteries, rotate your supplies, have the discussion with the family. Make sure your out of area contact is still your out of area contact, and that Aunt Sally knows they're the out of area contact. Just refresh yourselves and your plans, your supplies, and your awareness. And that's what's most important. Subscribe to those alerts. I can't impress that more. The MyShake app is great. And then, of course, your local alert and warning notifications are really important.
Before I forget, I just want to also say a thank you to our ASL interpreters today, Rachel and Sharon, not only for people on this call, but in the recording so that others can watch this video when it is posted online, which should be by early next week, if not sooner, the recording. And again, look at earthquakecountry.org/BAFA25, where you got the same place where you registered. That's where all the content will be. Ray, your final comments.
Ditto everything that Dina said. Want to thank you, Mark, for holding us all together and for all of your leadership behind this work. Thanks all of the participants for being here today. It's really these kind of partnerships that help us foster stronger resilience. And just want to wish all of you guys a safe and resilient holiday season. Thank you so much. I'll turn it over to Jeff.
Thank you, Ray, and thank you, Dina, Mark, and especially all of you who joined. We really, really appreciate you. And I want to just circle back one thing that Ray said. This is a holiday season. Give the gift of preparedness. That's a great message for all of us. Be prepared. Thank you so much.